When you are logging into the app, you are using some or the other mechanism, and now we are going to talk about how BankID as a mechanism can be used to log into an application. We'll be talking about integrating apps with BankID. I'll start with a little bit of background over here. I'm sure a lot of people here already know about BankID. We've interacted with it on a very regular basis. Yes, so that's where this background will come in handy. But I'm starting with a little bit of history about it, which says that okay, Swedish BankID was introduced in 2003 by major Swedish banks. The purpose of this was to provide a secure way to create a digital identity that can be used for different operations, like for proving your identity online, or signing some documents electronically, and all those purposes. And since 2003 it has evolved a lot. It has become a regular part of everybody's life here in Sweden. You cannot log in into banking apps and a lot of different government services if you don't have a bank ID, unfortunately. There are some ways around, but this is the primary source of getting into the system, and it is very closely also connected with your social security number, which is referred to as personal number here in Sweden. So what we are going to talk about is that if you are building an app for the Swedish market and somehow have the need of verifying who your customer is, or even giving them an option to log in passwordlessly, because BankID will have its own credentials and all those things. So if you end up in a situation where you are making such a product, then this talk you may have some takeaways from this talk that can be helpful there. With that said, one interesting fact that I found out was that it's estimated that nearly 100% of the population over the age of 18 has BankID in Sweden, which is like which also is a testimony that it is a part of our everyday life. We cannot operate a lot of things without that being there.
Sure. He has BankID, but no.
All right. So with that introduction about BankID, I'd also like to just say that what we are going to talk about is integrating it with the app. So we all need to have a mindset in the background thinking that okay, when you are logging into the app, you are using some or the other mechanism, and now we are going to talk about how BankID as a mechanism can be used to log into an application. But then if you think about logging into systems, you know that a very common way of logging in on online or in apps is also that suppose you install Spotify and then you want to log in. Most of the common apps nowadays provide an option to either create your account in Spotify or use an existing Google account to log in with. And so what is happening over here is that Google is basically verifying or basically providing a testimony that yeah, I know this person, this is a valid person, and you can let him in. These are their identity credentials. BankID also does the same job for us. It also tells us that okay, who this person is, what are their identity credentials. So in general it is an identity verification system, but it is not a very traditional identity provider system. For example, where I have some more examples in the upcoming slides, but I want to say this out loud in the beginning itself, is that if you have experience of integrating OAuth applications with Google or GitHub or any other, you know that you create client ID, client secret in them, and then you basically forward the request to them, and user logs in with their Google credentials, and then you get back an access token which says that okay, this is a Google access token, Google has verified, this is the information, here you go. But in that way BankID is not so traditional, because it does not generate access tokens or any such thing. It leaves that responsibility on the service provider, like on the person who is developing the app or the developer who is integrating with BankID, to take care of that. What part it takes care of is verifying that whoever is logging in is correct person or not. So that's a very traditional difference there between how both of the things work. We'll find out more about it in the upcoming slide. So here I have an example of identity providers, and as you can see, when you log in with Google on Spotify or any such application, what it does is that it says something like, hey Facebook or hey Google, I got this user who says you know them, here is the username and password they gave me. And then that organization like Google or Facebook is acting as an identity provider who says that yeah, this account, this email address dhruv.shah with this password is a person I know. Here you go, here is his first name, here is his last name, here is his date of birth. Do whatever you want to do with it and create an account for them in your system. So then the identity does not reside in Spotify when you log in with Google. The identity resides in Google but is federated with it. So Google becomes your identity provider. So this is a small chart or flow that shows that the user goes to the app, visits the application which is a service provider, for example as I said Spotify, Higlo, Blockit, whatever, and then it says that okay, login, and then the login request goes to the identity provider like Google, and then you prove your identity over here because you enter your Google credentials, and then Google says yeah I know him, and then it sends it back, and there are some protocols involved in it, so I won't get into that detail right now, but this is a high level flow of how things happen at an identity provider level. Now if we look at the same scenario from the bank ID's point of view, a lot of things are very similar over there. You can see that the request goes to the service provider, which means Blockit or some application, and then it says okay, go start your bank ID application. So what Blockit does is that it sends a request to bank ID saying that hey, there is someone with this personal number who is trying to log into my system, please help me in verifying that. And then Blockit also tells you that okay, open your bank ID app and log in over there so that we can come back. So that's something happens, and all that while you press the buttons in bank ID app with your security code, it keeps on waiting for you to come back and complete the transaction. Once it's done, Blockit or the service provider application gets all the information like okay, this was Dhruv, this is his personal number and this is his first name, last name, and then it can say okay, now I believe you because I got this information from bank ID, and now I can set up the account for you and maybe also give you a token if that's the case you're looking for. Is this okay until now, or yep? All right, great. So from this point we can go into looking at okay, then if this is the case where it's only providing us an identity verification, how do we use it, or how can products use that, because then it is up to a developer or a product's jurisdiction to decide that yeah okay, I can verify a user's identity from bank ID. Now how do I want to use that verification? Like, do I want to use it for logging in, so every time somebody logs into my system I ask bank ID, verify them and do it, or do I want to just verify once and then forget that okay, yeah, I verified this person, this is a legit person, and then just forget. So that's where these three different use cases come up. There are more if the product needs, we might come up with them, but these are very common ones where you want to verify an identity, which usually happens in the case where you have your own authentication system with credentials, email address and password, but on top of that you want to know that yeah, are you a real person, or are you a person we can trust for some kind of operation. There are various examples if you have interacted with apps like Higlo, which is where you can hire stuff or rent stuff for a day or for longer periods. GoMore is also a similar app for driving, so when you rent a car. So these applications need that kind of trust, right? They need to know that okay, this is a real person that is renting car from us and then needs to get. So that's how they are using the bank ID integration with them. The second one is authentication. As I said, it makes your apps passwordless, because then you don't need to worry about the security code of bank ID is the user's password. So there is one less thing for the user to also remember. They don't need to remember your application's credentials. And then the third thing, which is also I'm sure a lot of people have interfaced with, which is digital signatures. So in banks, you know that when you transact money or something, you confirm with by signing it digitally. That's also where bank ID comes in it. Yeah, so I'm laying down the foundation of what are the different common use cases, how are things used, what are some common applications using these use cases, and for this presentation I will limit the demos to seeing how we can verify the identity and then also how we can authenticate it. But to go into that depth, we need to understand what does BankID offer to us in terms of interfacing with them, what are their APIs and functionalities that are offered by them. So here is a very short summary of the API interface of BankID. As you can see, it has an authentication endpoint which starts authentication process. So whenever you are in your banking app and you click on login with BankID, that's when the authentication process starts. So this is the endpoint that is used for that. There is a sign endpoint which is again used when you want to specifically sign some documents or transactions, bank transactions or things like that. There is a collect API. Now if I go back a little bit to this part of the presentation and talk about what's happening here, while the user is entering their security code or basically grabbing their phone and opening the BankID app, there is some delay over there, and the app might need to know, okay, what's going on with the authentication session that we started. We ask the user to log in with BankID, is he doing it, or have they cancelled it, or has it timed out or not. So the service or application needs to know that, and that's something that this collect endpoint provides. So as you can see, there are repeated calls happening over here continuously, and that's also a behavior that BankID suggests, that okay, once you initiate the authentication, we will give you an order reference ID. Use that order reference ID to query all the time what's going on with your order, and we will provide you status information in each call which says that okay, the order is succeeded, it's completed, it's timed out, or what has happened. We'll see some examples of that later also, but that's the collect endpoint for you. They have recently, not so recently, but still in a recent update, they have also come up with phone auth and phone sign APIs, which are basically, I'm not sure if you have come across it, but when you call for Försäkringskassan and this, or any other Skatteverket maybe, and they say, okay, you have a problem, you say that I have a problem with my account, and they say, okay, I need to log in, you need to prove your identity to me, so I will send a request to your BankID, open and verify yourself, and then we proceed with the case, whatever you are discussing with the case officer there. That's where these phone auth and phone sign APIs come in picture. So that's what applications like Skatteverket or banking applications where you have ongoing loans or everything, and you want to know more about them, before they can start that conversation with you, they need to verify you. And so from that application they send these commands with your personal number, and then that's how. So these are APIs for that. And then of course there is the cancel API. If at any point the user feels that okay, I started this by mistake and want to cancel, so you know that there is a cancel button on your BankID applications while it is waiting for you to take action on the phone. So that's that. So it will cancel the. So this was the developer side of it. There is also what are some versions of it. It's very interesting to know the versions as a developer, of course, because this is a public API. It has some security what do you say, side effects when you use a certain version over another, and what are some recommendations that are given by them. So the most common versions right now are version 5.1 and version 6 of the BankID APIs. The BankID 6 is the latest, of course, as the number suggests. And what has happened over time is that they have tried to address the security of this, so that frauds can be reduced in terms of how things can be verified. I mean, initially it was possible to send a BankID request by just knowing a person's personal number. So if I know Frederick's or Meer's personal number, I can enter it with the API and then make a request, and then it will pop up in their BankID application, and which means that if they log in, I will get some information or I can use that to do something more around it. So those are the kind of risks and frauds that they have tried to avoid in version 6, which is their latest one. Yes.
Can I have a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not very technical question.
That's all right.
About the general thing around BankID. So do you need to pay money to buy the API from BankID to have to integrate it with your service?
Yes. So the question, I will just repeat the question for everybody to listen more clearly. So we are the question is around the pricing related to the BankID API. How does it go around and work? We have a section for that at the end. I will bring it up as soon as we are there. But to answer in short, yes, there is a pricing involved with it. Was there another question?
You said like in version 6 they are trying to avoid that like security issue. How are they doing it?
Well, based on what I was able to read about it, because it's not very clearly stated also like how they are doing it, because a lot of things related to BankID are sensitive. Their cryptography protocols are also sensitive and not publicly exposed. But one of the things that they are doing is that initially I will also show that demo you the difference between version 5.1 and 6. But in general, in version 5.1, you could enter anybody's personal number and then the bank ID will open up. In version 6, they have removed that. So the session needs to start from the user's phone. So the user themselves need to start, okay, I want to log in with bank ID. You can't tell that, okay, start a bank ID session for this personal number. Instead, that's the other way. So instead of using personal numbers for doing that, there is they are supplying the end user's IP. So my IP address is a part of the request, and then the bank ID knows that, okay, this is the place where the request came from, and then that's how it will proceed.
And if I may add to that, they have started using QR codes instead.
Yes, and so the difference between I have probably written it or missed it, but the difference between 5.1 and 6 is also that they have enhanced the animation of their QR code. If you look at BankID logins with QR codes, they are animated QR codes. It keeps on changing every second. So and before 5.1 that was not possible. So before 5.1 the QR code animation was really bad. So there was a time where you could use a previous QR code to log in and get access to or verify things with it. But with 5.1 they improved the QR code animation, and with 6 they removed the personal number addition at fully. So you won't be able to do that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when we send the request, the device ID is also involved in that.
Yes.
It can be on particular devices. It is
Yep.
not, you cannot download it on any device and use it.
Yep.
Your link. So is there any device ID when we do start the authentication?
No, when the authentication request is made, BankID only cares about your IP address, so that they can send a request back to it.
But IPs can change.
Yeah. So the IP address is only for traceability, like where the request started from. Beyond that point, what happens is that I have it in the upcoming. Let me come to that, and we can talk about how specifically this process fully happens. And we can look at it in the authenticate using BankID section of this very quickly. But before that, I will quickly talk about the verify identity. It is very simple as such, that how verify identity works, because if suppose we are building a system called Soltia 1 where we want to verify a person who is a part of our system. So we have their user credentials. I know that there is mir@soltia.com, a user in Soltia 1, and there he has his own credentials, password and everything. But on top of that, I want to verify whether what is your bank ID, and if it is a valid bank, if you hold a valid bank ID or not. So then Soltia 1 as a service provider will start this process of initiating the flow for you. And here is where I can also answer your part. If you can see in number 4, we start the server or the service Soltia 1 starts the bank ID authentication process and receives in return it receives the order reference number and some more tokens from bank ID. Now it's the responsibility of Soltia 1 to pass these tokens to his phone so that it can trigger the bank ID app opening on their phone. And if that token is wrong, the bank ID app will reject that request and they won't be able to log in or anything like that. So it is the responsibility of the service provider or whoever is building the system to make sure that whatever response they are getting from them is correctly conveyed to the end user. And there are two ways to do that. If you are logging in, if you are opening the app like Soltia One in the phone, then you need to develop the code in such a way that you can automatically navigate the user from this application to the BankID application, and in the query parameters pass the authentication token that you got from BankID. Then the other way is, if you are on desktop, then that's where the QR code comes in. So the QR code also translates that information. So when you scan that QR code, it has that token which BankID knows that, okay, is this token really valid? Is this what I started BankID for? And then that's how it gets validated. So that's how the request ends up.
The
Yes.
simple thing, they remove the taking personal number in the request. When you are signing in, they, in the V6, they
Yeah.
stop taking the personal number.
Yeah.
So now you don't have any API that can get be triggered by any personal number.
I was
Yeah.
expecting it would be encrypted in some manner.
Yeah, it is. The token is encrypted, not the personal ID. The token has all that encrypted information.
There is no personal ID.
No.
Personal ID involved. So you don't have a way to trigger my personal ID number because they stop taking the input of the personal ID.
And the reason, yes, sorry, the reason why there is no personal ID involved is also very simple. Like suppose if you have this, I can use this picture which we have in front of us. You see that there is a QR code that the user is scanning, right? So now suppose this QR code has popped up. Now instead of you scanning that QR code, if I scan, then it will be logged in by me. So that QR code is not in any ways tagged with who can log in with it.
Public, but
Yes.
how the user will be identified?
Yeah, with the token, because the token has the order reference number also. So suppose you started, the request starts from Soltia One, uses that gets back that token, you send that token to the user and send it back to BankID. So BankID knows, okay, this token is for Soltia One, so Dhruv is trying to log into Soltia One with this. So that's how it probably connects the dots over there. But again, it's a very good point, because it involves transacting in this token from BankID to the backend systems, from the backend system to your phones or to your applications. We will see an example of it very quickly in the demos also, how it works.
Just one question. So that means that the websites right now, I know there are some websites that still have, government websites that still have the
Yes.
feed that you still have to
They are
enter.
on V4
They are
5.1.
in 5.1. They haven't
Yes.
gone to. Do you know how long the 5.1
Yes,
will be valid?
2024, May 2024.
May 20. Oh, really? So they have to change.
Yes. Yeah, it is getting deprecated in May 2024. Yeah. Migration work, it also uses it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same way. All right, so we talked about verifying identity. I think it will start making more sense when we look at the demo also. So I will quickly change the screen here, and I am hoping I have no. I'm so sorry, I just need to check on what port my server is running. Was it 8001? Okay. So I have a front end application running on 8001, which is like Soltia One, I'm assuming.
81, I think it was.
8081, okay, sorry. Too many ports are occupied. So now this is the application that I am logged into. This is a profile that you have in that application, SaaS application and everything. And here what the sole goal that we want to achieve is that, okay, I want to verify that Dhruv has this personal number, owns this personal number, and there is a trusted party that can testify on behalf of them. So you usually get something like verify your bank ID so that we can trust you more. You click on that. Now I am also using 5.1 for this demo, because going through the whole process of QR codes and it's a little bit more time consuming, but it gives the same experience. So now I need to find, I should have had all these things handy, but
So if you had V6, here you, instead of having UI to enter your code, sorry, personal ID, you will get the
QR code, animated
and
QR
you
code.
get a button. That button will open your
Bank ID. We will see that demo too. We have a V6 demo also planned, but this one is for V5.1. So now I entered a personal number and I have the phone where I have bank ID installed for this personal number. Now it's important to see that what messages do we get, or how clear the bank ID API is to show the messages in terms of what's happening in the user's phone. So when I am doing this, it is saying start bank ID to verify. I haven't opened the bank ID yet. When I do that, it will start saying, okay, enter your bank ID credentials. So it clearly knows the status of what's happening behind the scenes, and it is informing me with the collect endpoints response. And when I identify myself with it, it will basically say verified. Now once our backend systems got this data like, okay, verified, now it is up to the backend system to decide, okay, how does it want to deal with it. Maybe convert it into a JWT token and return it, or store that into a database field saying that, okay, Dhruv verified or bank ID true, or whatever way in which they want to do it. But that's left up to the jurisdiction of your product development team, or they need to decide. While this is happening, I can also show you the response that we get from bank ID. So this is the log of the response that we get from bank ID, where the interesting part is this, where you get completion data attribute, where it says, okay, who the user is. So there is a user object with first name, last name and personal number, what device was used, some certificate information and all those things. So you can use this information to validate more and more stuff, that okay, was this a fake bank ID server that serviced my request, or was this a real server. So there are a lot of more factors involved in terms of security that you can deal with over here. The same experience can be done through API also, because behind the scenes I am using this API. So this is what happens when you start the bank ID. You pass the personal number. I did that from front end. Here I will do it from the Postman collection. So I will send the request. I get an order reference number in response. I pick the order reference number and call the collect endpoint. So while I am making, it is showing status pending and it is showing outstanding transaction. So now when I open the bank ID, it is saying user sign. So it's saying that, okay, now the user needs to sign. So these are the things that I am using in the front end also to show what text to show over there. And now if I sign it and select, then I will get the completion data over here, where you have, okay, the status of this order is complete. The user's personal number is this, Dhruv, given name is Dhruv, last name is Shah. This is the signature of the certificate and some more information that can be used for it. So here we also have the device IP address through which the user logged in, and some more information about certificate that was used.
So
Yes.
Previous response that you just showed.
This
was
one.
7 number in the flowchart. Number 7.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This one was 7 number. I can make the call to collect information as many times. I mean, as long as the auth session lasts, which is like 20 seconds or 25 seconds. Yes, Mir.
So now the user, how do you create the user? I mean, this is the test one.
Yes.
But is there?
No, it's the same in production also.
No. You receive now this personal number. This. I mean, the personal number is not your. Actual personal.
Yeah. It's a test.
Test. But how did you create this test?
Yeah, we have a slide for that.
Oh.
You are ahead of time.
Yes. Okay, I'll come back to the presentation. So we saw about the demo part of it. One thing I can state over here, it might look a little rushy in terms of what we are presenting and showing, but from this tech talk, what we are also starting to do is that all these code materials will be available on the Soltia GitHub repository, which is accessible by everybody. So you can try it out, test it out with yourself in different ways. So all of this code will be available there. All right. So this was the demo part. Now the authentication part is much more longer, and this also touches upon one thing that you mentioned, like how does the user get created, because at the end bank ID just gave me an object which says, okay, this is the user, this is their personal number and all those things. Now what do I do with that information? For production grade systems, it's very important to create tokens and sessions and all those things out of it. So it's important that there is something called an authentication server that is which is acting as a mediatory for us, so that it can verify the identity first and then generate the token session and all those kind of things, and then send back the information to the front end app. So the app knows that okay, this is a valid session with a valid user, a logged in user, and that part. So this flow diagram describes that. It is very similar to the other one. The only thing is there are more people to the party over here. We have an authentication server and an authentication web page through which all of this happens. Given the time constraint, I will be publishing this and we can separately talk about it, but I will show you the demo which gives you much more clear view of how things work around it. So let me open, just one moment please. I have a, all right. I will open an incognito window because I want to. So when I start this is like how you log in with QR code in different applications. You can see that the QR code is constantly changing and all those things happening. All of this is happening on an authentication server, whose sole responsibility is to identify the user with the password. In what way? Like the password can be on the server or it can ask BankID whether this is a valid customer or not. So right now it is telling, okay, use your BankID to verify yourself and then I can let you in. So now it's expired, so I need to try again. So now I will scan the QR code and then it will do the same thing, which is use these endpoints, collect and those to fetch the information and show me as an account information. In this example, I am using Keycloak as a authentication server, which is a IAM solution, identity and access management solution. So you can it is an open source IAM which allows you to set up user sessions, define token lifespan and all those things. So you can decide, okay, the token can be valid for only 30 minutes, and after that the user might want to log in again if you are working with a really secure system, or how do the tokens refresh, and all those logic goes into the Keycloak system. But Keycloak is federating or asking BankID or allowing the user to prove their identity through BankID and then saying that, okay, now I trust you and this is your account information that I have with you. Is that okay? Yes. All right. I will come to the noteworthy mentions now. We'll start with the test environment setup, which was your question also. So BankID has a very good documentation on how to set up test environment and things. So the limitation though is that you can't have two BankIDs on the same phone. So you need a phone which does not have the real BankID in order to do that. So you need a dummy phone first of all to do it. Then install the BankID app, and then there are instructions on what to do. I can quickly show you some parts of it. I have the link open somewhere here. So if you go to demo.bankid.com, it says, okay, now here you can log in to create it, and it says, okay, select your login method. So ideally you want to create a test BankID, but you don't have a test BankID yet. So the process starts with generating a personal code for yourself. So you don't have a personal code either, so you can order a personal code. So the process starts by ordering a personal code which comes to your email. When you get the personal code and log in with that, it will give you a token which you enter in your BankID app, and it says, okay, what personal number you want to use. And BankID has provided a list of test personal numbers, which are people who have died, not active anymore, and they are from, and you can see mine is from 1984. So that identity doesn't exist. So you can then create an identity which gets created on the test server, and then this whole process works seamlessly. I have low battery.
Do you use the production app?
Yes, but the production app has the feature to disable certain things over here.
You have to change the URL of the product.
Yeah, I mean there are developer settings in your production app. So if you long press on some things over here, it will turn into the test app. So then you need to enter a keyword called kund test, which is like customer test. Once you enter that, the app starts connecting to the test server instead of the production server. So every BankID app that you have right now has that facility. But if you do that, you will get logged out of your production or real personal number. So yeah, I would not recommend that. But yeah, there is a guide for it. They have PDF guides and everything that you can follow for that. Coming to the question about pricing now, yes, the whole process starts with, if you want to use this in production, you need to have an SSL certificate for your server that can be used to make the request to the BankID servers. And these SSL certificates needs to be purchased by a contract with any of the banks. So Swedbank, SEB, Nordea, all these have these BankID certificates that they give out. And then there is a pricing involved in it, but they have not disclosed the pricing on their website. You have to contact banks, and then based on your agreement with the bank will offer you a pricing for your usage. Yeah. One last thing which is very noteworthy over here. Yeah.
So do you pay only for the certificate, or do you pay per transaction?
No, you pay per transaction also.
As well.
Yeah, but
No
and
excess for that?
no, exactly, that's what I'm saying. I mean, this pricing model is something that you have the possibility to probably negotiate with the bank based on your relationship with the bank, because there are multiple banks providing it also.
Basically, they are not published anywhere, right?
So that's not anywhere over on their website. One last noteworthy thing about it is the user experience, because of course login is a process you want to have as frictionless as possible. Otherwise you drop customers if your login is very bad or crappy. So of course BankID has a very exhaustive list of error codes and statuses through which you can understand what's happening, because there is a third party involved, the BankID app. Now you don't know what the user is doing in the BankID app. Have they even opened the BankID app or not, or something like that. So that's where it is very chatty in terms of the information it shares with you, but it depends on the developer to decide how to use that and create a frictionless login experience for them.
One question.
Yes.
As a developer, when you start to use these bank IDs, like the test version,
Yes.
does it cost anything?
No, the test, so the question is, does the test environment setup cost anything? And it doesn't. No, there is no cost involved in the test environment. The cost is only for the production.
Get plus the
Yes, yes, that's correct. Yes. Was that all? Any more questions? I think I have a very short fun quiz planned for you as a part of this. If you can scan this QR code, it will take you to the app where I want to do that. And meanwhile I will set it up. But and while you do that, I can just say that whatever we set, whatever I presented today with BankID would not have been possible without the knowledge shared by Harikant and Jagannath in terms of creating this whole setup. So we've been doing this for a customer, and that's where how we ended up fully getting acquainted to this setup. So I would like to give a shout out to Harikant and Jagannath for that. All right, I will. Are you there on the?
Yeah.
Okay. I just need to open it here. Sorry, one moment. Yes, I will start it from here, and I will share my screen also, hopefully. Present. All right, we start with this one. I think you see the first question on your side. You can just share how was your experience about today's tech talk, and then we get into a little bit of the fun part of it, which is, yeah. Yes?
Can you show the code again?
Oh, you need the code again? Here you go.
With the implementation of our application in BankID, sessions in front end from backend side.
Yeah?
If we every request we send our any token or something.
No. No, there is no additional token or header that you have to send when making the request to BankID. It's only these query parameters, like either the order reference number that you have or that. So in that way it is publicly available. Yeah.
Encoding or something, change
No, no. The order reference number is just created once and it lasts for 20 seconds. Yeah. All right. Should I consider everybody has answered this?
One response.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the feedback. We'll come back to this. Let's go to the next slide. So, since we were talking about BankID and I thought it might be nice to do a small trivia quiz for it. I'm doing the quiz first time on Mentimeter, so I don't know if it goes well. Yes. So, in 2003, the first BankID EID was issued. Do you know which bank issued the first BankID EID for its customer? Make a guess. If yeah, make a guess. We'll see the responses and then show the correct answer. Okay, I can give the options loudly. So there is SEB, Skandia Banken, Swedbank and Riksbank. Peter, do you know? You know? I will give you a chance to answer and then I will press enter so we see the right answer. All right, is everybody done? Do we want to see the answer?
Yeah.
All right, Peter.
I think it was SEB.
All right, the right answer was Skandia Bank.
Yeah, I had Skandia Bank. Maybe. But at that time you could both use your password and bank ID.
Oh, okay.
Or bank ID.
Yeah. All right. All right, we go to the next question then. Yeah. In the first year of BankID's release, how many people signed their taxes with BankID? And there are options like,
Only one.
so the options are 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, 27,000 or 1,000.
I guess 27.
Yes, I will go with 27.
Okay, pick your choice, pick your choice.
Yeah, this number is very interesting.
Actually, I think you put 27 to you think that the 27 is enough. So don't.
He did that before. No, I'm still with 27.
All right, has everybody answered? Should we look at the answer? Peter, do you want to give it a try?
It was a few, but it's 27. It's an odd number. So of course, it is 27. Then.
So,
You should have made it a little bit harder, like
yeah, it was very,
27,
yeah.
107.
This was my first time creating a quiz with Mentimeter. All right, final question. What happened? And now I select next one. Oh, okay, I already gave the answer. I don't know how.
But it's not showing. Something is. Oh, yeah.
450.
Yeah.
So 450.
No, the answer is 100,000. At the end of 1 year. I don't. Yeah. Good that I gave the disclaimer earlier that this is my first time doing this. All right. With
Sorry, this question means like people who are having bank ID on the phone or
Yes.
the website? Okay.
on the phone. I mean, at that time it was not more on the phone, but they had devices for also bank ID. It was not mobile phone in general.
It was bank. They used to
There was a
bank
desktop app.
in computers.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, like, isn't it like every Swedish?
No,
No.
no, not when it was released. Not when it was released.
Yeah, 23.
All right. With this, I will just like to say thank you for joining today's talk. I hope it was informative.